Hey guys, welcome back to the Affirmations for Black Men podcast. Yes, I know I have been away for a couple of months. I had to recharge. I had to take care of myself so I can come back with full force and intention. And today's episode, I'm really excited because I have Dr. Brown with me, who is a sleep physician. And so many of you have let me know that you're struggling with sleep issues. So I'm really excited that Dr. Brown is here and she spent our time with us. But first and foremost, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button, because that is how we grow. That is how we build our audience. That is how we get our team paid. And that is how we're going to keep this motion going. So without further ado, Dr. Brown, thank you so much for coming. How are you? Welcome.
I am so well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. So a little bit about Dr. Brown is that she has spent years, decades in sleep therapy. She went to University of Pennsylvania. She's a Black woman in the city of Philadelphia. And I'm really excited to have her here because a lot of Black men you know me, Affirmations of Black Men, 250,000 on Instagram alone. And if not, tens of thousands of Black men are telling me that they have sleep issues. So I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit about you and your background first and get into what are some of the major reasons this is happening within our community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. So did I miss anything when I was introducing you? Do you want to talk about your background a little bit?
Well, like you said, I'm a sleep medicine physician. I own a sleep practice. It's called the Restful Sleep MD. And one of the things we do really well is help people not just prioritize sleep, but get to the root cause of their sleep issues. And I love having conversations like this.
Awesome. Awesome. And have you had Black male clients before?
Absolutely. Quite a number.
Do you see a common thread amongst us, whether it's the symptoms and the reasons why?
Yeah, two main things. A lot of Black men complain of an inability to fall asleep because their mind is racing. And also they may have non-restorative sleep, meaning that their sleep quality is poor. I would say those are the two most common symptoms. Now, I also have another group of people where either their partners bring them in and say, fix this snoring, please. So that's also another reason. So snoring is a very common reason why Black men tend to come see me.
Okay. And has there been a common thread why there's this restfulness? Like I have some of my own ideas in trouble sleeping that you have found as a licensed physician.
Yes. So many reasons, but I would say sometimes stress, anxiety, depression, mental illness plays a big role. Stress in terms of relationships, work, those things that keep you up at night where, it's dark, there's nobody to talk to necessarily, those thoughts just start to come. So that's one reason, or a bunch of reasons. Another reason why I start to see people have, non-restorative sleep also is probably sometimes because of the poor sleep habits. So sometimes we get into patterns, and you may have heard of like the sleep hygiene and things like that. And those things are really important. They're actually very important and foundational to good sleep. So that's another reason. And then finally, sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea is an actually dangerous condition that is unfortunately more common in men and also more common among Blacks. So this is one that is often unrecognized, undiagnosed, and has very serious consequences, which is when you have difficulties breathing during sleep.
Why is difficulty breathing most common amongst us?
Well, quite a few reasons. One is sometimes with the obesity pandemic. So if you think about it, what is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is when you have pauses in your breathing during sleep. And many times it's because your airway becomes narrow, right? So what will cause a narrow airway? If there's a lot of fat on your tongue, a lot of fat on your neck, sometimes that airway becomes narrow. Sometimes you might have anatomical differences where your airway is just naturally more narrow. And so when you're sleeping, your muscles are relaxed. And so that's the snoring you might hear initially because you're breathing while you're sleeping, but the air is limited. The airflow is limited. So you might hear snoring. You might also hear sort of gasping or pauses where you may have seen that where someone is sleeping, they stop, and then they start almost like choking and gasping. That is very dangerous, because think about it. When we're breathing in, we're breathing in oxygen. So if you have narrow airway or a blockage in your airway, you're not getting oxygen to your brain. And so it puts your body under a lot of stress. And so literally you go into fight flight mode. And so, you might wake up, maybe cough, or gasping, go back to sleep. And so you can imagine your sleep becomes very fitful and very restless. And many people will say, well, they wake up and they still feel exhausted. They may wake up and, they need a lot of coffee. They may go about their day and they're feeling sleepy. They may be, not doing so well at their job. They may feel more anxious and things like that. The most common reason, again, is that narrow airway. Being overweight is very, unfortunately, more common among our Black population. And so that puts a lot of us at risk.
So guys, health is wealth. It's not just mental health we're talking about. We're talking about physical health, which is also impacting mental health.
Exactly.
And then it's all a cycle, is what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, things like if you think about a situation where your body is not getting the oxygen is life, right? Oxygen to your brain is going to make you feel slow, make you feel sad, make you feel unmotivated, make you feel like you're living in a fog. Oxygen not getting to your heart is going to raise your blood pressure. It's going to make your heart rate go up. Sometimes might lead to a higher risk of strokes. Oxygen not getting to, the organs that supply all your hormones can lead to risks of diabetes and what we call insulin resistance and, gaining weight excessively, which might also now lead to more sleep apnea. And so it's this vicious cycle, because now you're having struggles losing weight, you feel unmotivated, you feel sad. It impacts your mental health, which then further impacts your sleep.
Wow. I wasn't expecting you to go in the direction of physical health as much. In terms of impacting sleep. When I'm thinking of the sleep issues, even that I've experienced in my past, it's always been stress and anxiety, and not going to sleep at the right time. Like sometimes I'll stay up until, having trouble, like you said, falling asleep initially. So it's just so surprising to hear that the physical health is that much of an impact on people, and it's all a circle. So I wanted to ask you, do you have like a case study of a Black man that you've been working with, like hopefully a success story and the things that you guys did together? Because I would love to just like really dive as deep as we can.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So maybe I'll do two, because like what you said is right. There is the impact sleep has on our physical health, but there's also impact it has on our mental health. And sometimes they're so tightly connected, it's hard to tease out what is what. So I'll start with an example. Pretty successful Black man who had been doing otherwise very well, type A, very driven, came from sort of more humble backgrounds, and so kind of worked his way to the top. But the more success he had, the more he started to have struggles and was now having some lapses in judgment, issues with relationships, and difficulties sleeping. So, I'd also been having some, weight gain over time, wasn't really working out as much, was snoring, his wife had mentioned he was starting to snore. So just came in exhausted, had reported that he sometimes would fall asleep, at the traffic light, which is very dangerous, right? If you're blanking out and falling asleep, that's pretty risky. So when I saw him, we talked through, some of his sleep habits. And, he would work, till close to midnight because he had deadlines and things like he needed to do. And so that was eating into his sleep time. And then would get into bed and it would be like a light switch goes off and he's thinking and, trying to process either the day or the coming day or whatever. And so as a result of that, was really barely getting much sleep. But even when he fell asleep, he would have wake ups again, wake up maybe feeling a little bit of shortness of breath, which we initially thought was panic attacks because he was just so anxious and stressed out, and was only getting maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep overall because of all these issues. So we talked through a few things. We had to figure out, well, what's bringing all this about? Clearly, we went into, at the end of the day, I'm doing a lot of therapy with this patient. So we went into a lot of the history of trauma and anxiety that he was going to lose it all and lose his company and things like that. So that was keeping him up at night. So we needed to develop some protocols around what we call cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, where we're dealing with the thoughts, we're dealing with some habits and behaviors around sleep. And we're also doing some cognitive, what we call cognitive restructuring, where we're really looking at, well, these thoughts, these catastrophic thoughts you're having are not serving you. They're keeping you up, which is not really allowing you to be the best version of yourself the next day. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so we're kind of intercepting some of those thoughts and providing more affirming thoughts, I would say. And so we built that into the protocol. So we built that into the protocol. But another thing I was concerned about because of his weight gain and snoring was apnea, sleep apnea. So at the same time, again, using this our holistic approach, we were able to get a sleep study, which is a test to really look at your breathing during sleep. Because if I tell you you have snoring and pauses, well, we need to objectively measure that. And many people have their Fitbit and their trackers, and that is not as accurate. I'm just going to put that out there. So we got a sleep study. It's done at home in the comfort of his own home. And he definitely confirmed that he had sleep apnea. So this is a test where it's a non-invasive machine. You just wear belts and a nasal cannula. It's so accessible. It's non-intrusive. You get the results within a couple of weeks. And he confirmed he had very significant, moderate to severe sleep apnea. So that means his brain was having pauses in breathing about 28 times an hour. Because of the pauses in breathing, his oxygen levels were going down to close to 70%. Meanwhile, it should be in the high 90s. That is very dangerous, right? So he was already struggling with insomnia, but he also had sleep apnea. So right away, in addition to the protocol we started around the insomnia, we also now needed to start him on therapy for sleep apnea, which most common treatment option used is what we call continuous positive airway pressure. That's the CPAP machine. You might have seen that before. It's like a mask with a machine that's really just pumping air to the back of your throat. Can I tell you, within 6 to 8 weeks, he was completely changed. Of course, he wasn't snoring anymore. He was getting more restorative sleep. His mind had stopped racing because he was now building systems in place before bed where he would do some journaling, he would practice some gratitude, he would write out a to-do list, really kind of empty his mind in that sense. So his mind wasn't keeping him up anymore and the quality of sleep was better. And so that's just one game changer, completely different. He was back to the gym, better relationship with his wife and his kids, doing a lot more productive at work. And so just fixing that one thing, sleep, made a lot of change, brought about a lot of change in his life.
Wow. There's so much to just unpack in that one story. But one of the main questions I wanted to ask you, I mean, difficulty breathing is a really, that could kill you, right?
Yeah, I mean, over time, because the thing about it is your brain will always have that response to kick in, but it's a very stressful place to live in because now your brain is on hyper alert. So every time you go to sleep, especially when you're in deep sleep where your muscles are the most relaxed, you pause in breathing and it wakes up your brain to say, no, sorry, you can't have deep sleep. So many people are not aware because they're still sleeping, but it's super light sleep. So it's not that deep restorative sleep anymore because every time they try to get into deep sleep, their brain kicks in and says, not on my watch. You got to keep breathing. Unfortunately, there have been a few deaths directly from sleep apnea. But most of the time, your brain will always kick in, which is why I always tell people, please don't think snoring is minor. Get it checked out because it might be the answer to why you're so tired all the time.
And the reason why I ask you that is because my dad died when he was 42 of a heart attack. So when you're talking about, a Black man who's finally made his level of success and has this fear of losing it all, that's literally his story. When he was in his early 40s, I was really young, but he worked in Wall Street for Lehman Brothers. He, in the 90s was one of the most successful Black men on the street, but he had this constant anxiety. He had 2 little girls from 2 different women, had child support, lived in like a 7-bedroom house, was supporting everybody, including himself. And I learned after his death that his house was under a shark lender, a shark mortgage. Wow. So he was maybe a couple weeks away from losing his house. And so and I remember him always watching TV at night and never being able to sleep. And so this is like this whole
Wow.
conversation, is like bringing it back to me of like how important and how
Yes.
vital sleep patterns can be. And the
Yes.
reason why I started this platform is because I feel like the energy on the internet right now for Black men is more towards you ain't shit. You know what I mean? And like, you're doing this wrong and that wrong and this wrong. And so I have an opportunity here on this platform to find more solutions, right? And be solution oriented and be more empathetic instead of looking at the men in my community as a tool towards a means towards an end, being like, listen, this person might be hurting or might be broken and are experiencing things that they don't communicate because they feel alone in that journey. And I feel like when so many Black men are at this level of success or apparent success, there's this level of anxiety that comes with it that no one talks about. And I'm so happy you're here.
Oh my goodness. The work you're doing is so important. And I think, of course, there are men that speak into Black men's lives, but you're a woman speaking into Black men's lives. I just think that perspective is mind blowing. And really, I'm so sorry about your dad, because this is something that it's almost like an epidemic that I have been on a mission to stop. When I hear people under stress, because first of all, not breathing well during sleep puts your body under that stress, which is constantly high cortisol. And we know that if cortisol is too high, stress is high. If stress is high, there's a risk of everything, hypertension, heart attacks, strokes, all the negative stuff. So as a baseline, living under stress and struggling with sleep puts you at risk. You now add on top of that apnea. It could be catastrophic. And this is not to scare anybody. This is not to make you say, oh my goodness, I'm going to die in my sleep. You will not. But this is to really create that awareness that you need to start to pay attention, because a lot of this is a very treatable condition. So a lot of times we want to get on top of it so that you get the care you need.
Yes. And, I love this conversation because what I've been experiencing in my platform is a lot of men who don't make their health a priority, because that's the last thing on my mind. I need to make money a priority because my value relies and depends on money. And meanwhile, like my dad died at 42. So because he had the money, his health wasn't the priority. Yeah. And then so even all of these things that he created and manifested for himself, he wasn't able to enjoy.
Yeah.
So none of it matters if your health is not okay. And, to the success story of your client, how's he doing today? How is he still come back to you? I feel like growth isn't linear. Yeah. It's not, oh, okay, I figured this out. I'm going to be on a straight path. Everything's good now. Yeah. So has there been fallbacks and setbacks and he's had to come back, like a continuing journey?
Yeah. I mean, so with a lot of my clients, if you think about a condition like sleep apnea, it's a chronic condition, right? It's just like hypertension. It can be managed. In some situations, it can be treated depending on the root cause, which is really what we're usually after, finding out the root cause. So for most men and women, the patients that I see, we start off, and the way our program works is you have this more intensive phase where we're tackling root cause. We're looking at your blood level profiles, trying to create a treatment protocol for you. And so within the first 6 months, we're like literally, we are on it, right? And then after that, we get more into a maintenance phase. So he's in a maintenance phase, and most maintenance phase we kind of peel back where you still have to check in. Are you still using your CPAP? How is stress? Because stress comes in seasons, right? The holiday period for him is very stressful. So during those times, we're checking in more frequently because sleep is going to be something that will suddenly fall to the wayside if we're not careful. So I think when we've set up that system in play, it's kind of like plug and play, but you still want to make sure that the connection is still there. And so, again, he himself was also very aware and very motivated. Like I said, he's type A, driven and all that. And because he had so much success with the treatment, he really was committed to it. But that being said, during the holidays, he would slip up a little bit. But the fact that there was that accountability with checking in with me, things definitely, we were able to get back on track.
Wow. Accountability. I love it. Like, we don't have enough time. Like, I could sit here and talk to you for hours because you mentioned journaling, and I want to sit here and plug to you guys. I do have a journal on my page, Affirmations for Black Men, that is blank, where you're giving yourself an affirmation every single day. So I definitely want you to check that in the Shopify website. You can click the link in my bio. We talked about the power of affirming, the power of being intentional about your health, and the power of being consistent. And I know you said you had a second case study as well. So I'm very intrigued to hear that, because I feel like this is like probably most people, experiencing this at this level of life as men. But so there's another issue or a different issue that men are experiencing too?
Well, it's a lot of it, again, most commonly occurs around, the insomnia, the sleep apnea. Those are the most common reasons. The other one case that I had was actually a man that was having struggles with his sleep because of his child's sleep. So he came in, I'd felt very stressed, but he was around parenting, his son not sleeping well. And he was a single dad. So that was very challenging. So, we use a very family-based approach. So at the end of the day, what we ended up working on was getting his child to get independent sleep. And over time, his own sleep got better. So I think that just draws home that point that there may be things going on with your sleep as an individual, but then there are also environmental factors that can play a role. If you have a child that's not sleeping, if you're in an area, in a neighborhood that's very noisy, right? So, cars are driving by all the time, or your house is on top of a bar. Like literally, I had a patient whose house was he was living on top of a bar. Well, no, go figure, he couldn't sleep well, right?
Right.
So there are also like environmental factors that you want to pay attention to. There are also some things like nutritional. We are what we eat. So what's your diet? The things that you might be eating in your diet that might be impacting your sleep. So what that case really drove home was, it's not just about you as an individual. It's about your relationships. It's about who lives in your home. Do you have a 2 or 3 dogs? I've had some patients like that. All of you sharing the same bed, and now you're so hot all night, you're not sleeping. Or are you drinking alcohol because you're exhausted and you're like, I just need a nightcap, and because of that, you're not sleeping well. So those factors play a big role in sleep issues as well. And we're looking at all of it holistically.
And you mentioned sleep hygiene.
Yes.
And I know what that means, but for our followers who are listening to this conversation who don't know what good sleep hygiene is, are you okay to explain it for us?
Absolutely. So what is sleep hygiene? Sleep hygiene are basic habits or practices that you engage in that promote sleep. So think of it like dental hygiene, right? You're told to brush your teeth twice a day, floss them, really make sure you're not eating sticky foods, especially before bed, things like that. So similarly, sleep hygiene are those practices that you can engage in that will help you to get better sleep. So examples are things like consistency. Have a consistent sleep time and wake up time. That is so important because there are internal rhythms, or what we call our circadian rhythm, that depend on that consistency. Otherwise, you feel like you're in a jet lag mode. If today you wake up at 7 a.m., tomorrow you wake up at 12 noon, your body just kind of feels all over the place. So consistency is one of them. The other thing is having a bedtime routine. And I think this is so important. I love the fact that you mentioned journaling. So a bedtime routine will include 2 or 3 activities that are headed in the direction of the bedroom. So things like doing some reading, practicing some mindfulness, saying some affirmations, writing said affirmations, meditation, prayers, taking a bath, things like that. You could just pick 2 or 3. They don't have to be long and complicated, but things that can nurture you and help you sort of wind down, especially from a very busy day. And you want to stick to those routines. And then the other piece is the environment. So I usually will tell people your bedroom needs to be dark. It needs to be noise free. And it should be cool. If you're hot, you're going to wake up. If the room is not dark enough, you're going to wake up. If the room is noisy, you're going to wake up. So having a bedroom environment that is really sleep promoting is important. And then we talk about technology, right? Most of us are on our phones even until it's time to sleep. So you really want to back down on using technology before bed, because what it does is it's alerting. It's very engaging and stimulating. So it could range from scrolling on TikTok or Instagram to checking on emails before bed. All those things are very alerting, and it makes it really hard for your mind to shut down to go to sleep. And then finally, I usually will say things like caffeine. Drinking caffeine late in the day can put a dent in your sleep because caffeine is very stimulating, and it stays in your system for a very long time. So you want to avoid using caffeine before bed. I usually will say about 6 hours or 8 hours before bed because that half-life is that long. Alcohol is another one. It's so common for people to use alcohol to sleep. Now, here's the thing. Alcohol is a sedative. It will help you fall asleep, but it is metabolized by your body so quickly. And then now you start to have what we call a rebound in the middle of the night where you're now waking up frequently and you kind of wake up and feel very ill. So that's that hangover feeling. And that's because now you didn't get really good quality sleep. So these are just some basic things I usually will say, in terms of building a good sleep habit and a sleep foundation, you want to start with these things.
And what about marijuana? Because now we are entering the space of marijuana legalization.
Yes.
And I know a lot of my friends enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, that's usually tends to be signaled as a relaxant.
Yes.
Does that help you sleep or not?
So the way it helps you sleep, and the research here is relatively new, is that it curbs some of that anxiety. So if you're looking for something to help you just kind of chillax, it's okay. But the issue is that we're seeing that it does affect your sleep architecture, meaning the way your sleep is broken down over time. Because typically you want to get enough deep sleep, you want to get enough REM sleep, you want to get enough light sleep. All those sleep aspects are very important. And with time, what we're seeing is marijuana actually distorts the way that is built. And so over time, we really don't know what the long-term consequences is, but we usually recommend against using it for sleep. Now, if you feel like this is something you use either for chronic pain or like significant anxiety or something of that sort, it's okay. Just speak with your provider. But for sleep, it's not our go-to at all.
You hear that, guys? Because I have so many friends that are like, man, like that's my go-to, that sleep hygiene. They think that's a part of their sleep hygiene. So we ask a certified physician what's really going on. And I really appreciate you. You're someone that looks like us, someone that cares about us, and someone that is tailoring your information and the things that you know towards us and our experiences. And I think that's what's so important. One of my I'd say main issues, I would say that I've heard Black men communicate when it comes to sleeping is not falling asleep at the right time. So I believe that sleep hygiene that you were just mentioning is really going to help with that. And then one of the things that you said about going to sleep and waking up at the same time every single day is something that I've never heard before, because that gives your body that rhythm.
Yes.
So why is circadian rhythm so important?
Oh my goodness. That's like a whole podcast on its own.
Okay.
But no, but we need to talk about it because it's so important and most people miss out on that. So our body functions on a 24-hour or slightly longer than a 24-hour clock. Our life, the earth revolves, right, on a 24-hour system too. So when you're awake, when it is light out, like it's morning, you're awake, that's all part of your circadian rhythm. There's signals that are sent to your brain at night when it's dark to say it's nighttime, it's time to sleep. And melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, is produced. And so you fall asleep in the morning, it's bright out, and that actually sends signal to your brain to stop producing the melatonin. So it's this beautiful rhythm that God has set in place. It is incredible. It's literally a miracle. Now, those rhythms also impact some internal organs as well. Things like your hormones, things like actually your mood, your digestive system, they all function on those rhythms. So when you're consistent with your wake up time, you're setting an anchor to say, okay, morning starts now, digestive system start working, hormone system start working, mood start working. Like it sets things in motion. So when it's all over the place, you can imagine being in an orchestra and the bass is playing something, cello is playing something, violin, everybody's just doing whatever because the conductor is completely confused. That's literally what's happening. And it's a very common cause of sleep issues.
Wow. I love the way that you explain that because, I work during the week. And so I have my rhythm during the week, but then during the weekends, I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to wake up and sleep whenever I want to. So you guys, I need to emphasize that point.
Yeah.
Wake up at the same time every day if you can. Go to sleep at the same time every day if you can. You know, let's talk about and wrap it up in terms of what your life looks like as a man with good sleep versus what your life looks like with bad sleep, and how important everything is. Because I really think, like, for those of us who want to be successful and are talking about the grind, I got to grind. And, you know, your sleep is just something that you can wipe away and you're locked in. I think that's actually hurting you more than it's helping. And there's research behind it.
Yeah, no. So my own personal story was I got burnt out with that super hyperachiever, I'm going to, you know, I'll sleep when I die mentality, and it almost destroyed me. And so when I do this work, I'm very passionate as somebody who has walked the work. You know, so I get it. But to be the best version of yourself, you actually need rest. You actually need to unplug. If you think about it, every night, right? You plug your phone, and if they say your phone needs 8 hours to charge, you don't question it. You're like, here you go. Here's the juice. You get what you get, because tomorrow I need you to function and serve me, right? Your phone, you check your emails, you connect with people, you do all of that, and you plug it every night because you need it to charge. Then what makes you think you don't need that rest? You need that rest as well to recharge, to let your brain reset, to improve your mood. It's actually during sleep that you get, sleep is literally your brain is being cleansed every night. So when you don't cleanse your brain of the gunk, literally and figuratively, that builds up over the course of the day, it's gonna show somewhere. It's gonna show in your mood. It's gonna show in your performance. It's gonna show in your ability to show up. So if your goal is to thrive, if your goal is to be the best version of yourself, if your goal is to achieve, you know, all those amazing goals that you think you've been called on this earth to do, you're going to have to do one thing right. You're going to have to sleep. So make it a priority. And this is something that I think is just so important. You're going to feel more present. You're going to feel more productive. You're going to feel less anxious. You're going to show up like, who am I? And everybody around you is going to experience the same thing.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us, guys. Wow. I hope that you got to take away as much as I have personally. Dr. Brown, you're absolutely incredible. I hope this is not our last time communicating with each other. And Black men and Black women, whoever is watching this episode, whoever needed to hear this, thank you so much for coming on and listening to this conversation. Affirmations for Black Men is a platform to help us connect deeper, to help us understand each other, and to help us prioritize ourselves and each other. And so, as I like to do, I'm going to end this episode with an affirmation to the Black man listening who is having a hard time sleeping, who has a lot of anxiety, who has a lot of depression, who feels alone. Black man, you deserve a quality level sleep. You deserve to wake up feeling refreshed and ready for the day. You deserve some consistency in your relaxation, in your routines, and in your sleep hygiene. You want to listen to this episode that I have with Dr. Brown, not because this is something that I'm just, I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to get you to be here. You want to listen to it because every single day that you rest your head and you recharge, you come back stronger and you come back more powerful and you come back more structured internally. Don't think that sleep is something that you can just sweep under the rug. It's something that's really important. Your rest is really important. Your relaxation is really important. We love you. We care about you. And we hope that you have a good rest tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm super excited for you guys to take this in and rewatch if you have to. But otherwise, I am having another episode in 2 weeks, and it's going to be with a Black man who also has, I believe, 3 kids. And so he's experiencing some of the things that we're talking about. And we're going to talk about this to kind of bring in this last episode. And then we're also going to talk about how he's currently dealing with it. Thank you for coming. I love you. If you subscribe, thank you, and have a great week. Bye. That was amazing.
Oh, that's